My name is Rick Robinson. I'm the chairman for the New Jersey NAACP State Conference and also the North New Jersey NAACP unit. So I was recently appointed to this position by our esteemed state president, Mr. Richard Smith, in January. And I look forward to actually serving in this capacity for a number of reasons. Born and raised in the city of Newark, raised in the projects, managed to go to college, managed to graduate. Didn't have a lot of leaders when I actually was a young man, with the exception of playing ball. But I feel that the NAACP necessary, essential, and I want to say thank God for the NAACP. So on behalf of our esteemed president from the state, Richard Smith, and my president in Newark, New Jersey, Deborah Smith Gregory, I want to say welcome. So we have 3 people that are going to be on the panel for the first time. We have Broadway president, who's going to introduce herself. We have the criminal justice chair for Morris County, who's going to introduce herself. We also have, I think, Mr. President from K County. I think his link expired, but if he can't join us, that'll be
I'm
fine.
I'm here.
Okay, so we have President Blaine, who's going to actually join us as well. So I'm glad that everything worked out. I tell you, this technical team is awesome. They should be given lessons and incorporate themselves. So without further ado, let's start off with the Madam President from Broadway. You are?
Good morning. Good morning. How is everyone? My name
Everyone's
is
good.
My name is Kwane Palmer Chambliss. I am the president of the Broadway branch of the NAACP. I became president in 2019, taking over the unexpired term of Laurie Kaufman. It's a pleasure to be able to serve in this capacity. While I have never been president, I'm no stranger to what presidents do, as I am the youngest daughter of past President Shirley J. Palmer. I appreciate the opportunity by Mr. Robinson to be a part of this panel discussion. Criminal justice reform is something that's near and dear to my heart. I'm a mother of 5 handsome sons, all of which were raised in the 90s during the notorious time of the 90s crime bill, and their life was absolutely affected by some of those policies that removed Black men from homes. And so today we are the unfortunate beneficiaries of some of those policies. And so therefore, now as a grandmother, I appreciate the opportunity to advocate on behalf of young Black men and women in terms of criminal justice reform. Thank you.
I want to thank you there, Madam President. Our next panelist will be Criminal Justice Chair for Morris County, Mr. Reverend Scott. Mr. Scott, are you with us? Maybe we can come back to him later if he's having difficulty. So I'll move on to our president. I'm sorry, is that for us?
Can you hear me, Chairman Robinson? Can you hear me?
I can hear you very briefly. You're very faint. Can you move closer to your router or move closer to your monitor?
Yes. What about now?
That's great. That's great. So, Chairman Scott, I should say Reverend Scott, excuse me, Lord. Can you give us a brief synopsis of your stuff?
Yes, I am the current criminal justice chair here in Morris County. I am also the first African-American and first paid chaplain of Morris County Correctional Facility. I've been here in the jail now for 20 years. We have information that would support some of the information that's been discussed already, wherein Morris County is a county where 22% possibilities of African Americans being sentenced to prison versus white counterparts. So we have a lot of work to do here in Morris County.
Okay, so I thank you for being on, and project your voice because you're still a little faint, okay?
Okay.
All right. So thirdly, we have the president for the Cape May County, President Blaine. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, how you doing, sir? How's everybody doing? My name is Alexander Blaine. I'm the branch president for the Cape May County NAACP. We're one of the newer branches in the state. I'm actually the youngest branch president in the state. And Cape May County is the fact that we have a whole county. We're spread out, so we gotta talk to the Ocean City chief,
You want to
the
go outside?
Wildwood.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Huh? Okay. Yeah, we have to keep in contact with the Ocean City chief, the Middle Township chief, the Lower Township chief, the Wildwood chief, and some boroughs don't even have a police department. So sometimes we got to get in contact with the state police, which is sometimes difficult. But that's pretty much it. We're actually today, this year in was our election. So we became an active branch. So it's been a year. We became an active branch. So it's like an anniversary. But yeah, I'm ready to thank you, Mr. Chairman Robinson, for inviting me to come speak.
I'm glad that you're on board, and congratulations with your year review. All right, and lastly, but most importantly, we are honored to have before us retired captain who is the representative of Noble, Harrison Dillard. We are actually looking forward to his comments, and I'll let him introduce himself on this actual panel. Captain?
Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for that introduction. As Chairman Robinson stated, I'm a recently retired captain from the Morris County Prosecutor's Office. I spent the last 15 years of my career in Morris County. I was the first person, male or female, of African-American descent to get promoted to lieutenant and captain in that office. I'm also the chairperson of the Civil Rights and Diversity Committee for Noble, New Jersey. And I'm a U.S. Army veteran. And I'm also in the process of standing up a chapter of the NAACP out where I live in Hunterdon County. Third Vice President Vanessa Brown has been helping me out with that project. And we're about halfway to our goal of 100 members. So very excited about that. There seems to be an enthusiasm out here for a chapter. So I'm super happy that that's happening. And I'm very knowledgeable of what needs to be fixed in law enforcement. I'm proud of my career in law enforcement, but I know what needs to be fixed. I've been working on a lot of different strategies with the Civil Service Commission, with the Division of Criminal Justice, as well as our state legislature. There's 3 bills, Senate bills, that were passed unanimously, that were sponsored by Senator Sweeney and Senator Ron Rice, that are going to mandate that there's diversity in law enforcement, there's recruitment in law enforcement, and there's oversight, most importantly, oversight on the hiring process, which is a huge factor. So I'm proud of the work we've been doing, and I'm super excited to be on this panel, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak to everyone.
We are so honored for you to be before us. I think we all can learn from each other because we all bring a certain level of expertise. And, right now, it's a very, very important time for, Black and brown people. So let me just get right to it. All right, so the panelists all have been forwarded information, and there's only one question that I'm going to ask, and that's their thoughts and their take on the information that I provided them. Let me first, brief the audience. In Asbury Park, there was a young man who had mental illness issues. He was in his apartment. He caused a ruckus. The Asbury Park police came by. This is not their first time dealing with this young man. He was very unstable, talking behind his door, opened his door once or twice, and then on a couple of other times, the conversation seemed to be somewhat peaceful. Come to find out at the end of the video in which I sent the panelists, the young man was shot because he had a knife in his hand, and he was shot dead by one of the officers in Asbury Park. So it was an hour and a half standoff. I find it to be a little bit troubling. On the flip side, I spoke with the mayor of Linden, And in Linden, New Jersey, a man who was a white man who was involved with a 4-hour standoff and shot off pellet guns or some kind of nail gun at the officers. Did other small things in terms of simple assault, but that man was not shot. That man was arrested, and that actually, I would say, really brought my attention to unfairness, equality, justice. So I am going to ask the panel one by one their thoughts, and we're going to have a brief discussion. Chair, Charley-Sibley, can you please just monitor us with the time so we'll be appropriate? Because we have an excellent speaker right behind this segment. And I thank everybody who's watching on this audience and involving this great presentation. We must be visible, effective, and we must be just. But I'm gonna go back to we must be visible. Okay, so let's go with Madam President Palmer Chambliss. What are your thoughts about the information that I brought before you regarding the two matters? And mind you, Madam President is the president in Rahway, so she recently just had a meeting with me with the county prosecutor. So I'm quite sure she wants to add a little bit more to this because she actually met the county prosecutor and we had a great meeting. So I'm eager to find out what you had to say, Madam President. Please.
Thank you very much. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a mother of 5. I'm a mother of 5 young men. They range from 34, 32, 30, 28, and 28 years old. So they are now grown men. One of those young men does happen to be a child who has special needs. He is functioning enough to be functioning, but functioning just not enough that often his brothers and I talk about him being in that situation and fearing for his life. So that situation with the young man who had special needs and was shot is always very near and dear to our heart. And as we see that happening more and more across the country, right, that our police departments do not know how to address the needs of people who are dealing with sometimes what we would call invisible disorders, right? A child who has Down syndrome or a child who suffers from fetal alcohol syndrome, you can see the evidence, right, of those disorders. Or someone who's in a wheelchair, you can see the evidence of that disorder. But someone who has 10 fingers, 10 toes, presents as though that they're, excuse the term, quote unquote normal, it's very hard for people to have sympathy for that population when you encounter them. So what you might see as resisting is not resisting, right. It's flailing, it's nervousness, it's a whole lot of things coming to the surface that have more to do with that person's disability than it has to do with them being a criminal or resisting or not following directions or order or any of the words that's used to justify to kill unarmed Black men and women on the streets and on the sidewalk. So it's near and dear to my heart. The only thing I can say is that I'm not surprised, right? I think that as a people, we should be beyond the stage of shock. That's a good thing and that's a bad thing because it suggests that we are like we're like dull. It's like, all right, another one has happened. And that's dangerous because that can kind of put out the fire. But at the same time, we should not be caught off guard by these situations. I recently had a friend who served on a grand jury. And he said that one of the things that he noticed amongst the white people when they had to bring back an indictment on a white defendant is that they did so with remorse. It was almost like, I really don't want to do this, but the facts before me require that I do this. But when it came to Black and brown people that were up for indictment, it was a real simple yes. You know, I have another friend who is, he's a prosecutor. And he said, one of the reasons why he became a prosecutor or why he is a prosecutor is that he is able to give those same benefits and the doubts and the deals that prosecutors will give young white men. Parents will come in and say, oh, but Johnny has a future. Oh, but Johnny made a simple mistake. Oh, you can't ruin his life. Oh, you can't, give him a chance. And a lot of times those things are listened to, where when Hakeem comes in, who also has a future, who also has a chance, that same level of grace or restraint is not given to him by our prosecutors, and that's why he serves. So my thoughts on the matter is, I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked. In addition to cultural sensitivity training, our police force also needs the ability to have training to deal with people who have special needs, which is why there is a large call for defunding the police and reallocating that money to places so that we can have social workers and people who are trained to deal with people who are in crisis. Because the answer to the solution is not a bullet, but far too often that is the solution. Bullet, a taser, or some kind of horrible intervention that ends in that life being taken unjustly. And so that's my thoughts on the matter. Oh, and you wanted me to talk about, I'm sorry, the prosecutors. I think that what Union County Prosecutor's Office needs to do, and they're doing a lot. We commend them for the body camera footage training that they are doing to determine where police get it wrong, where police get it right, so that they can have proper training. So I just want to take an opportunity to shout out Director Parham for spearheading that. I'd like to thank you.
Yeah, very, very good. Very good.
I'd also like to say that thank you to the prosecutor's office for also looking into racial bias in Union County. With the Clark Police Department, being a person born and raised in Rahway, 135 is one of the scariest exits to get off. Many of us go all the way down to 130 to avoid having to deal with the Clark Police. So we appreciate that. So these are the initiatives that we are looking forward to and that we want our county prosecutors' offices to get on, making sure they have training, making sure they understand sensitivity training, and also shout out to the Elizabeth Police Department, Union County, for being one of the first departments to actually do a training on what to do when you encounter a young person with special needs. Hopefully that program that they're doing runs well. It can be duplicated and it can be taught all around the state of New Jersey. So again, thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to present, and onward and upward. Thank you.
I want to send this thank you to Madam President, because this is only the first start regarding my chairmanship. I have been tasked with trying to collaborate with all NAACP units in the state of New Jersey, pertaining to relationships with prosecutors, sheriff office, and their particular law enforcement in their area. So I want to thank Madam President. So we'll move to Morris County with Criminal Justice Chair Reverend Scott. Reverend Scott, what do you have to say about the situation regarding the two scenarios that I just mentioned?
First of all, can you hear me?
Yes, just speak up, sir.
Okay. I just want to say congratulatory remarks to our Madam President, who just spoke very eloquently about the circumstance and the situation. She did bring out several things within this issue, which I have disparities with. You have two situations that are primarily similar, but the outcomes were different. And I think some of this, and perhaps our guest speaker, Mr. Dillard, can help me out with this. There is a policy called use of force policy within New Jersey. And if you look at that use of force policy, the police officer has to make a decision when he or she will use force, and the information that is used to determine force in many cases is subjective. The police officer has to make that determination whether to use force or not. And I believe some of the determining factors where police officers use force has its roots in systemic racism.
Absolutely.
Treatment of the African American and the treatment of the other, and in many cases, is drastically different. And I think the sensitivity training that we receive with our police officers has to be evaluated. I'm not sure if the sensitivity training given reaches to the root of the systemic biases that we have in New Jersey in terms of how the use of force policy is administered. One thing I like to also address, and Madam President brought this out, is there is a lack of understanding with many police departments across the nation in terms of how we deal with people who are challenged or have invisible disorders. I'm not even sure if that sensitivity is really understood with some of our professionals in other areas. And I think that's a big issue that needs to be addressed with all police departments. And finally, here in Morris County, we are getting a new prosecutor. And I want to thank Chairman Robinson for meeting with us several times here in Morris County to deal with some of the issues that arose here in Morris County, where we have, I said before, 22% likelihood of African Americans being sentenced to prison versus white counterparts. And after working in the jail here for 20 some years, I have seen that to be a prevalent problem, which we need to address. But I think for the most part, we are still dealing with systemic racism, where persons, in this case, the dominant group being white, views us as being animals, views us as being things with no value. And consequently, if you have no value, then I can do anything I want to you. And I think we need to address that within our police department.
Listen, I want to thank you there, Chair, because we had some productive meetings with your prosecutor in Morris County.
Yeah.
And we seem to have a good footing in terms of where we want to go. And the visibility that I mentioned earlier, that is so important. It's really, really necessary for us to engage in some kind of change and inspire that, which is why our next panelist, who is new to this situation because of his 1-year-old review, but I went to college down there in South Jersey, played ball down there in Wildwood and a couple of other, semi-pro areas down there. So, President Blaine, you have a different situation down there because you're in South Jersey. But what are your takes on the matter?
I got a different situation, not because I'm in South Jersey, but because I'm in Cape May County, where, to give everybody a landscape of Cape May County, we have no black police chiefs. We only have, I can count 3 black police officers in the whole county. Predominantly Republican, whether, we're a nonpartisan organization, but still that says something. So it's tough down here, and the situation that happened that you sent us, is an unfortunate circumstances, because it says a lot about our times. As much as we like to think things have changed, they really haven't. Even our governor is pretty forward-thinking governor, and it don't matter when we have police officers like this. Of course, we need sensitivity training. Like our prosecutor, I was just talking to him a couple days ago, and he was telling me how, he wants to keep being engaged with the community. Different police chiefs in our county want to stay engaged with our community. And I think it's happening because of the NAACP, because as far as I know, our chiefs didn't have ice cream day with the kids, but I think we're trying. And with that situation that happened in Osbury, our prosecutor spoke on that and said he's trying to do a pilot program for special needs people. So, we're trying to, and I know I don't want to take all the time up. I know we short on time, but we're trying to fight the good fight down here. Even our senator and assemblyman, they passed a couple bills that had something to do with criminal justice not long ago, the sharing of police records. People calling police for false reports on bias, deadly force, banning the chokehold in our state. And these are Republicans. And like President Smith said before, we only get what we elect. So, you know, we get lemons, we got to try to make lemonade or, you know, make lemon pie. So we're trying down here in Cape County.
Listen, I spoke with your prosecutor down there. He claims to be a Democrat. Am I right?
Yeah, he was the former Democrat chairman. Yeah, before he
Yeah.
took this job. So, you know.
Yeah. So he's presented with a tough situation himself, being down there in the sea where the water doesn't want to touch him. So, but we take what we can get, because, you know, as you know, we're not really given everything that we want, so we have to fight. And in those fights, sometimes we win, and sometimes we lose, but we have to continue fighting. So with the retired captain on board here, he could pretty much elaborate on the training, and maybe consideration for review boards. We go in the instance, we go in regards to Asbury Park and Linden. So Captain Dillard, please.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. I'm not sure how much time I have. Please let me know when my time is up, because I have a tendency.
No, you have a lot of time. We have to 12:15.
Okay, great. First, I'd like to circle back to something that Reverend Scott spoke about as far as Morris County. New Jersey is the worst in the country as far as disparities in incarceration. Blacks are 12 times more likely to be incarcerated than whites in our country. Morris County is almost double that at 22 times. And it's not percentage, it's times, it's multiple. So 22 times more likely Blacks are to be incarcerated coming out of Morris County than whites are. So that's a huge thing that I was trying to really battle when I was working there, and you know, I hope to continue in that fight. I spent most of my career training in tactics. I spent a lot of time in narcotics. I did a lot of tactical training. So when I see the videos, you know, there's things that definitely stand out to me. I know Madam President Palmer said earlier, she mentioned the word remorse, that, you know, there seems to be a little remorse for when police are dealing with our communities versus white communities. Another key word there that I saw in these videos is restraint. The amount of restraint that the officers use is completely different in those two incidents, and that's concerning to me. When I saw the deadly use of force, you know, to me, there's de-escalation training that's being held all over the state. So that's and there's legislation to make that mandatory. I attended it before I retired. De-escalation is basically asking officers to go to situations, slow things down, and look at the situation in its totality, look to see if there's a mental illness situation going on or a substance abuse situation going on, and take all those things into consideration. So those are the factors that should be taken into consideration. And again, hopefully legislation will pass that mandates that training. But, you know, if you're taking those things into consideration, there's a shift in philosophy where the police officers should be, and hopefully will be taught, that are your actions lawful but awful? Meaning, just because you have the ability to take action, is that the best course of action for the community, for the situation right in front of you? Just because you have the legal authority to do it doesn't mean that you should every time. And there's actually a shift in that philosophy. I'm glad that's happening. It's happening slowly, but it's happening. So, you know, my philosophy, my mentality is an officer should ask themselves, when I got to the situation, did I make it worse or better? And we see clear examples of how things got worse in a specific situation. I was surprised when I saw the shots being fired in that situation. It actually surprised me. I was looking at the situation and wondering what caused it. And again, I go back to the levels of restraint. The Linden situation, they took the time to get the right people there, the negotiators, and again, there's a lot of things that could have happened, but they used restraint. To me, I wish that the Asbury Park situation, my understanding is that there were people coming on their way there, but negotiators should have stepped in. He started making statements that are indicative of a mental illness situation. He started making comments as far as suicide by cop, and that should have caught their attention in my mind, and they should have backed out of that situation and let negotiators, people who are trained in negotiating and dealing with mental health, deal with that situation. I think it would have been a different outcome. And I'm hoping again that there's a shift in the training that's offered to law enforcement and that it becomes mandatory. I'm working on a pilot program with the Division of Criminal Justice. It's the Clear Institute, which is under the Division of Criminal Justice, and there's multiple classes being presented as far as cultural awareness, cultural, trying to improve the relationship between law enforcement and the communities. I'm one of the lead instructors on the course that's geared towards improving the relationship between law enforcement and the Black community. It's about a 4-hour presentation, and it just touches the surface, but it goes into the historical context of the situation in law enforcement, of how law enforcement started as slave patrols and militias, and we talk about historically how things, law enforcement's role during slavery, during the Jim Crow era, during the Civil Rights era, and up until our current era of mass incarceration. And we're trying to show that those past practices, whenever there's a current incident, those past practices are seen as, the current day incidents are seen as continuation of those past practices. And that's why the relationship continues to deteriorate between law enforcement. I'm a big proponent, and I believe Noble is a big proponent for civilian review boards. The bottom line is that there's not enough oversight on policing, especially in internal affairs. I spent time in internal affairs. I was the lieutenant of internal affairs at one point, and it's very secretive. The internal affairs units are a very homogenous group of people who don't look like us and don't have, in my mind, a lot of times the communities, they don't represent the communities that they're sworn to protect and serve. And that's concerning to me. So I think that with oversight, with civilian review boards, with us pushing to make sure that there's people who are from our community that are members of law enforcement that are in internal affairs, because again, it's a homogenous group and they don't look like us. And so their decisions are based on their life experiences, not ours. Right. And I see a huge, difference in the philosophies. Again, I think that there's things that can be done. I think civilian review boards will be a benefit to that. And I think that putting oversight and a light on things that have historically not had a light shone on them, I think is going to make a big difference in how we move forward. The best thing I say everywhere I go when I'm talking about trying to recruit for our chapter of the NAACP, or I'm speaking on behalf of Noble, is that we are destroying the status quo. We're not going back to the way things were. We're moving forward. There will be positive change. There's going to be oversight on uses of force, deadly uses of force. There's going to be oversight on hiring practices, which keeps minorities out of law enforcement positions. I think that if we're not seen in the community as law enforcement, if we're not represented in our communities, that's a huge problem as well. And I think that, we need to increase our numbers, and I'm positive, I'm confident that's going to happen. So I'll stop there, and if there's any questions, I'll be glad to address them.
Listen, your points were spot on, and I think if we're going to be engaged in any kind of change, we have to embrace everything that this panel has actually mentioned. We have a situation in Union County that we're trying to fix, and Madam President Palmer Chambers has been instrumental in that. We have a matter in Morris County that actually is looking better, and that's to the credit of the president of Morris County, Vanessa Brown, who's I think she's our state third vice president, and the different team that she has, especially with Chair Herman Scott for the criminal justice. And we also had to teach our young president what we're doing up here in different areas regarding President Blaine, because he just came into office, and he's presented with a situation where not too many of Black representation is in the law enforcement ranks. So that actually poses a problem because as I mentioned earlier, I happen to went to school down there and play ball down there, so I know what he's confronted with. But I want to actually have the audience understand that the criminal justice piece for the NAACP has just gotten bigger, which is why I am asking people to actually join the Criminal Justice State Committee. I know President Blaine had gave me interest involvement. He wants to be a part of it. And we also have Joyce Monasto from the different branch out there. She wants to be a part of it. So we're looking forward to actually bring together a more diverse team, because we want to be in different areas and we want to be visible. We want to have a visibility that actually is recognized and somewhat respected, very much so. So our last words, I will give it around to everybody on the panel. So we'll start off with Madam President Palmer Chambliss. Do you have any last words for this segment?
Hello.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I had my microphone muted. Again, I just want to say thank you again for the opportunity to present. Thank you again for allowing me to accompany you and the other Union County presidents on our day with the Union County Prosecutor's Office. I learned a lot, not only about the role of the prosecutor, but the amount of roles that are done behind the scenes that we don't know about. You know, a lot of times we talk about increasing the presence of the actual police force who we see on the street. But there are a lot of other positions in the prosecutor's office that are void of African-American faces that we should also be training and preparing our young people to do. Far too often, our young men and young women are so put off by interactions that they have either seen or had themselves with the police, and they grow up and they say, I don't want to be no police, right? And so it's very hard to even have them want to take the test to even start the process of becoming a police officer. So those are some of the things that we need to work on in our community. I know the last time we had our conference in Atlantic City, and then we had the young man who represented the New Jersey State Police. I'm sorry, his name escapes me. But one of the things he said is that he had to pass a swimming test. And that just, a bell went off in my head, because it's not that African Americans can't swim. It's just that normally when you see us excel at things, we excel at things that we can do on the street, right? We can pick up a baseball game. We can pick up a basketball game. We can pick up a football game. But generally sports that require an investment of capital, we are generally underrepresented. And so swimming is one of those things, because quite frankly, how many of us have a pool in our backyard, right? Where we can even practice and be ready. And so he went through the process. And what I said to someone, I said, well, what if the ability to dunk a basketball was one of the criteria? How many young white men would not be state police officers today? So we have to look at those things internally and systematically, that people don't have to now put up signs and say, Black people not wanted, but they can systematically do little things that turn us off or put us out of the running. Something simple as, do you swim? So that's why it's very important for us to get involved. We didn't go with the NAACP Criminal Justice, if you have time to volunteer, because these are some of the things that we want to tackle in an effort to bring equality and, most importantly, equity and justice to the profession of policing. So thank you again for this opportunity.
My pleasure. We're going to have statements from Criminal Justice Chair from Morris County, Reverend Scott.
Yes, thank you, Rick, for this invitation, and also thank you for all of the presenters who were on today. I also want to say that if we are not a part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. And we cannot sit silently by and watch things just happen and just say, oh, that's the way it is. And to Madam President's point, I think we have to change the face of our community. If we want changes, then we got to put people there who represent us. Because, and in some cases, even the people that we put there to represent us are really not representing us, if you know what I mean. But we got to make sure that the people we put in office represent our issues and are there to open up doors and avenues so that the African American community can thrive in this country. Thank you.
And following the Reverend Scott, I want to thank you again for the meeting with Morris County prosecutors, and we're moving forward in that direction. So, young President Blaine, we are looking forward to your up and coming presence. Give us a few words, please.
Well, I want to thank you again, Mr. Chair, for inviting me to speak. You know, the one thing I will give the police chiefs and the prosecutors is they do realize the representation that we don't have. So we are trying. But like Miss Palmer, I'm sorry, like President Palmer said, the youth are just turned off. You know, I don't want to be no police. You know, I grew up on NWA. You know, so it's just so much that we gotta face. It's so much that we gotta fight to make them realize that Chairman Edwards, Todd Edwards used to say, if you're not at the menu, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So we got to get our youth to realize that, like, listen, you got to gear up. You got to be a police officer. You know, you got to change within. And, you know, that's the type of stuff we're facing right now. So I do want to give our police chiefs and our prosecutor credit, because we are trying. So that's really it. And, you know, thanks again.
I tell you, when you actually can engage with a police law enforcement that doesn't actually have representation regarding Black and brown people, and you're able to move the needle, it's a sign of success. So as you already know, I have no problem calling down there. I have no problem being down there because I really believe in this. So thank you for your leadership. We're going to hear from the retired captain. He has actually brought an astounding amount of information to us. Plus, he has my full support for his upcoming chapter in Huntington County. So, Captain Dillard.
Great. Thank you again for this opportunity. I included my name, my phone number, my email address in the chat. Please feel free to reach out to me for additional information. I just want to leave you all with this. I 100% agree that we need to engage the youth and explain to them that they need to be the change they want to see. Noble is very much involved in recruitment and trying to build those relationships. Again, the Senate bills that I spoke about, real quickly, it's S2765, 66, and 67. I'll put them in the chat. Those are the bills that are going to change the game as far as oversight. But one of the biggest things we hear all the time is that there's not enough candidates. And I want you all to challenge that when you hear it, because it's a lie. I got the data from civil service directly. And in 2017 and 2019, the civil service test was given. Over 50% of the people who took the test were brown and Black. Our state is only 30% brown or Black. It's about 13.5% Black and about 17% Hispanic. So that's about 30%. The people who took the test, both in 2017 and in 2019, were 50% Black or brown people who took the civil service test. 25% were female. Of the test in 2017, there was 27,000 people who took the test, 27,000 applicants. Only 14% were hired of that 27,000, only 16%. That means 84% of the 27,000 were never even looked at. So that's a huge number. And I want you to be mindful. We're getting the data of the 16% that were hired, right? I promise you, they were not 50% brown or Black or 25% female. So I'm waiting for that data, and I will be happy to share it when I get it. But when they say there's not enough candidates, challenge them, because it's not the truth. Over 50% of the people who took the test, who applied to become cops through civil service, were Black and brown, 25% were female. So we refuted those facts right off the bat. And once I get the data of the 16% that were hired, I promise you 50% were not brown or Black and 25% were not female. And that's going to give us what we need to really move forward and show them that there's huge disparities in how they hire the people from our community. Thank you again for the opportunity. Again, feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'll be glad to share any information I have with the group. Thank you.
Listen, we are deeply honored. I want to say my leadership, my chairmanship, has primarily came from my Newark, New Jersey NAACP president, Ms. Deborah Smith Gregory, and our team up there. We have a great relationship with the Newark Police Department. We have a great relationship with the prosecutor's office. We have a great relationship with our other NAACPs in Essex County. And that's all because we work under her leadership and, with the team. As far as state conference level, we have an outstanding state president. He's actually a member of the board of directors as well. We're looking forward to a convention in New Jersey. Am I right, Madam Chair? We have a convention coming up next year in New Jersey. So I'm quite sure that she's going to be spearheading that campaign.
2022.
2022. Okay, so you heard that, people. Let me first, thank those panelists that have actually been on board. Madam President Palmer Chambliss from Railway, Criminal Justice Chair Reverend Scott from Morris County, Mr. Blaine, President Blaine from Cape May County, and our esteemed guest, the gentleman who is going to put forth another branch, I would say, in Huntington County, retired Captain Harrison Dillard. We are very fortunate to have you today. We look forward to actually to one day being together, I guess, Madam Chair. I hope in the near future.
Sooner than later.
Well, I want to, yeah, but I want to say, I love the NAACP. I'm going to fight for the NAACP with respect to our status and our mission. So it will be in a respectful way, but we have to initiate change. We do. So we got to get our young brothers and sisters out there to get those jobs. All right. We had to actually change the culture. So the other people would change how they look at us.
Yes.
We can't have them looking at us to shoot us. We cannot have that. We have to change the barometer to make sure that we are actually given a situation where we're looking at absolute fairness. And we want to have people held accountable when they actually compromise their status as law enforcement. So, which is why I'm glad the retired Captain Dillard was on the line with us and spoke very highly of that. So, listen, I want to thank all of you for being on the panel. I really feel that we had to give our hardworking interior structure some shine, as Chair would say. But again, my name is Rick Robinson. I'm your chairman for the New Jersey NAACP State Conference and for the North New Jersey unit. And I want people to actually join the state committee regarding criminal justice. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I will answer them accordingly. And again, thank you very much, panelists. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Madam President, Madam Secretary, Vivian Darks. Thank you to our state president, Mr. Richard Smith. And I already said thank you to my North President, Deborah Smith Gregory. So be well, everybody. And one day we'll be together soon. But if you need any kind of assistance regarding criminal justice, please contact me, and we'll work as a team regarding our representative throughout the state, and we'll try to get things done for you. All right.
Thank you,
Peace,
Chairman
everybody.
Robinson. What a fantastic panel. I mean, it was the perfect segue into our conversation. Our keynote speaker, Mr. Sean King, who will be coming up at 12:30. There are a couple questions in the feed that we might be able to get a couple quick answers to because we are tight on time. One of them is from Kim Montfort. She wants to know when and how will your program be presented? History of law enforcement?
That's for Captain Dillard.
Yes, it's actually right now that presentation is geared towards law enforcement, so it's not going to be massively disseminated. It's actually trying to educate law enforcement and change the relationship between law enforcement and the Black community. So that's our targeted audience. I would love for it to be more widely disseminated, but right now it's geared towards law enforcement because we're trying to emphasize on the fact that the past relationships, the history, and law enforcement's responsibilities during those eras is what is conjured up when we have a current day circumstance or current day situation, and it's just seen as a continuation of past practices. So that's what that training is geared towards. We have our final recording of it coming up at the end of this month, and I would definitely look into to see if we can mass disseminate, because it's going to be recorded, and hopefully we can get it to people who want to see it.
Thank you so much.
If I may, oh, that's it. I was
I'm
gonna say,
sorry.
if I may, in Union County, what they did with the last graduating class is that they kind of snuck it into the training a bit, where it's not one of the mandated trainings that they're supposed to have in the academy. They were able to sneak elements of the historical practice of policing into the training class. Not only that, in the city of Linden, since we're talking about Linden, the county prosecutor and Director Parham actually did a Q&A with young Black men in the city of Linden, addressing some of their issues, some of their fears, some of their concerns that they have with being police officers. And so therefore, if the former captain does do this and does record it, I would be interested in having a copy of that recording. We should all look into it. And even if we don't get it from the police department, we can go into the basement of our churches, our community organizations, and we can recreate this training for our people and our young people ourselves. So let's not limit ourselves to other people's limitations. Let's see what we can do. We can go forward to educate our community. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm gonna squeeze one more question in. Of the 50% minorities that took the civil service test, do we have a percentage of those that passed the test? That's from Darnell Hardwick.
I don't have that data yet, but I'm working on getting that. So again, the test was given in 2017 and 2019. The demographic breakdown of who took the test has been given to us. We're trying to see who was hired, but I'm going to look into see what the actual the scores were. But my main thing is we're going to show that our people have been disproportionately eliminated, and because there's loopholes in that process, and they're able to hire whoever they want. And even with civil service, which civil service has the most oversight on hiring, and that's not a compliment. That just means the other processes like the state police, the chiefs of police towns, the prosecutor's offices, they report to no one who they hire or eliminate. There's no oversight on that at all. So we started with civil service. We're getting the data. We'll have a breakdown of who passed the test as well demographically. But I'm very interested to see who they hired versus who they eliminated and the reasons why, because it's very, very subjective.
Absolutely. So I look forward to seeing that data. I know that our branch, we covered 13 towns, and we had a policing forum, and we asked them to say, how many minorities do you have on your force? And as we went through all 13 towns, we came up with 10 officers total.
Yeah,
there was a comment made about not enough applicants or those passing the test. So we can't wait for the data to come out, as many others. Thing I want to say, because we're approaching 12:30, if Chairman Robinson, could you take a look in the Q&A and other panelists, because you do have a couple other questions out here, at least one more.
I think here let's subside right here, because we want to be prepared for our guest speaker, if you will.
Right. I was going to ask if you could answer it in the panel.
We can take the questions later. I pretty much indicated at the presentation at the beginning that all questions will be addressed. All questions. And I will say this: we will have another Zoom meeting. I will conduct it for the Criminal Justice Committee, and then we can actually address everything. So what I need is your information regarding if you want to be part of the State Conference Criminal Justice Committee, and we can look at certain things that Captain Dillard just mentioned, along with other measures. Okay?
All right. Thank you again, panelists. You guys were phenomenal.